So for many people, it's confusing as to what each of our branches do in the government. So let's talk about that. How are they connected and what checks and balances are in place for each? So first, there are 435 members of the House of Representatives and 100 members in the Senate. The House and Senate being the legislative branch. They're elected by the people, and our Congress makes the laws that govern our country. Their powers are both constitutional as well as evolutionary. Not only do they make laws, but it is within their power to declare war, create and manufacture our currency, raise our military forces, regulate the commerce, establish rules of immigration and citizenship, as well as establishing the federal courts in their jurisdictions. The evolutionary power or implied power of the Congress allows them the authority to pass laws that are deemed necessary and proper in order to carry out their many functions. As stated previously, the president is the head of the executive branch. He approves and signs into law the items that are passed by our legislative branch. He negotiates treaties and acts as the head of the state and commander-in-chief over the armed forces. And there are 15 cabinet members whom he appoints, along with the vice president. There are 15 cabinet members whom he appoints as advisors, along with the vice president, who talk to him on all matters of business for our country. The judicial branch, on the other hand, is responsible for interpreting, explaining, and upholding the Constitution and our laws. Including in this branch would be the Supreme Court, district courts, circuit courts, and even superior courts. They all oversee the appellate and trial courts around the country. All three branches are connected by checks and balances, with each branch having their own responsibility and power. But no one branch has the ability to gain full power over the others. As an example, contained within our Constitution is a notion known as the separation of powers. Power is shared between the three branches, but each can challenge. This is what's called the checks and balances. The legislative branch checks on the executive branch with their power of veto, approval of presidential appointments, and by having the power to declare war and the authority to enact taxes and allocate funds. They check on the judiciary branch by approving the federal judges, initiating constitutional amendments, setting jurisdictions, and being able to alter the size of our Supreme Court. Congress reviews the budget of the executive branch. Anytime a government program is created, they would then pass a bill in order to set the appropriation. And they also have the authority to investigate that are brought forth as wrongdoing by public officials. So finally, the executive branch. They check on the legislative branch with the president's veto power, the ability to call Congress into an emergency session, recess appointments, and being the commander-in-chief of our armed forces. The judiciary is checked on by the power of the pardon and power to appoint the judges. Within the executive branch is the ability of our vice president and the cabinet to vote against the president if they feel he cannot carry out his duties for the country. Our judicial branch checks on the legislative branch by having the authority to review seats that are held and determine whether or not they're held in good standing. Their compensation cannot be diminished. They check on the executive branch by the judicial review process, and because their chief justice sits as the president of the Senate during presidential impeachment hearings. So that's the differences in the duties and the checks and balances of the three branches of our government.